Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker podcast. This is the preview for the Friday of the York Ebor Festival, the third day of the festival. And I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined by two of Oddschecker's finest tipsters, Andy Holding and Daryl Carter. Andy, a tough day for you yesterday. We're recording this just after 11 o'clock on Thursday. So we've just seen the first day of racing. And it was a tough day for you yesterday, but got out of trouble a bit in the lucky last.
Yeah, as we said in the preview, York's very much a track and a law unto itself, with what kind of horses handle the conditions, handle the ground. One or two disappointing ones that had been there before and run poorly for some reason, and horses who'd stepped foot on the Nasemar for the first time, such as Cloudbridge, just couldn't handle the occasion, and he could basically blow back a gasket in the first two furlongs. Those are the kind of things that are just out of your control as a punter, and but lessons to be learned. You know, I mean, three of the winners at York yesterday were all course winners. So that's another thing to look at. That was one thing we did mention beforehand is likely to be the status quo. So when we're doing the podcast for Friday and Saturday, we very much have that at the back of our minds.
And just on Cloudbridge, because he was your 2-point nap on the column on the Oddschecker app, and he was also put up in the podcast. It seemed to me, I mean, I don't know if you agree, it seemed to me like he kind of settled coming out and then was just properly lit up by the kind of the small group around him. I mean, what do you put that down to purely just him being incredibly keen, or was it a case of, it's an experienced horse, it's a tough track?
Well, it's hard to say, really, isn't it? Because I mean, we only had one sample size with him at Leicester, and what we had to go on that day, he came out the stalls fine. He raced nicely, relaxed. There was only a small field at Leicester. Yes, they went a good gallop, but they went a good gallop at York yesterday, so it wasn't as if they crawled along and he was pulling off a slow pace. For some reason, that first run completely lit him up. He's obviously quite an overexcited but exuberant type. If you do notice as well, he had the hood on down to the start, which suggested to me he's quite a hot horse. Again, in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. In the cold light of day, looking at him how he performed, he was probably the worst bet you'll ever have at 11 to 10. I mean, I was there sitting on a nice anti-post voucher. I'd backed him each way 9 to 2.
No.
Knowing, like I say, all the horses weren't going to run, and he was. It was just a perfect storm, really, for me. I thought, well, this is a great bet, but in the end, he ended up beating one horse home. He might have finished last in the end.
Yeah. Well, I had a hard luck story as well, where after you two knocked your head together on the podcast and video last week, earlier in the week, and tipped up Magic J in the first, I managed to back Magic J 6 places at Paddy Power, was second, kind of running into the final furlong, and just finished 7th. So that was a really good way to start the week. Daryl, did it get much better for you?
Well, I covered better. I had a cover bet on a Claim the Nation mentioned on the podcast yesterday, 18 to 1. So that sort of paid for the day really yesterday. Really disappointed with Dancing in the Street. She looks a tough ride at the moment, and I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that horse. But I'm going to put a line through that and just let her go for now. I think I'm not going to follow her over a cliff. But I definitely still think 5 furlongs of her trip. She did what Andy, to be fair, did say. She ran very similar to the way she did previously at York. I'm not sure if there's something wrong in the head there. She just doesn't look the horse she was a few starts back when she was careering through field. So really disappointed with that. But it didn't get much better yesterday. But like I say, I Claim the Nation in the first, sort of the cover bet sort of paid for the day. So it's not the end of the world, and we can go on battling. I think these next 2 days are probably my strongest throughout the whole week. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into these next 2 days.
Just very, very quickly, just getting back to that Magic J, the fear that I thought beforehand was realised with it. I still can't understand why they put the blinkers on it, because the blinkers worked, but they almost overworked. It went from being a strong traveller to completely and utterly revved up to the eyeballs yesterday. It was absolutely tanking 2 out. They've got there at the furlong pole, asked it to go to win its race. It's drew level. But the exertions of obviously pulling hard and the extra half a furlong, because it was 5.5 furlongs yesterday, paid for it. They've just completely got that wrong. They've ridden it wrong the time before at Ascot from the front. They didn't learn their lessons. They put headgear on it, which was not needed. It's just a fairly straightforward horse. You run him over a flat 5 furlongs or an easy 5, and it'd be a different horse than what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, to be fair, they put the cheek pieces on for that emphatic Sandown win, didn't they? And I think I don't actually, at the time of that race, I didn't think he actually needed him when they put him on. I just thought he needed the drop back and trip. So it's probably, I probably took the switch out for the blinkers as to freshen him up. Perhaps made a mistake in thinking and not thinking what I originally thought about the cheek pieces, that he actually didn't need them. And it would definitely be of interest next time they come off, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to get on to the racing on Friday now, so we don't have too long. I am not far away from York at the moment, and the sun is shining, and it's supposed to be shining tomorrow as well. So there's a bit of rain around yesterday, but I think the ground will be drying up over the next couple of days. Before we get into the first race, the 145 on Friday, just going to point listeners and viewers in the direction of the oddschecker app. If you're listening to this podcast, it means that you clearly have an interest in horse racing and in gambling. And the oddschecker app is the perfect companion for you to enjoy the racing or any other sporting event. The best bookie offers the very best prices, crucially, free bets, place terms, everything you can need, including two of the best tipsters around in both Daryl and Andy. And if you want to get Daryl's tips, you have to have the app. They're exclusive. His nap of the day, and Andy's, the first place you can get them every morning is with the oddschecker app. So please do download it now. So the racing, 145 at York on Friday is a handicap, the Sky Bet handicap, and Zabeel Champion is the 9-4 favourite ahead of Al Fatik at 11-2. Restorer 8-1 alongside Dark Jedi. I think Dash of Spice might be coming out as we record. Currently listed at 10-1, but a few firms not offering Dash of Spice, so keep an eye on that. And then 11-1 Bar. Andy, we'll start with you here. Zabeel Champion 9-4, fair favourite.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that Newmarket handicap is one of the best 1.25 mile races of its kind throughout the season. Over that trip, anyway. Obviously, the King George handicap's the better one for the 1.5 mile horses, but to win that and beat the field that he did in the manner he did, certainly suggests that he's definitely right up there with the top of his sort of counterparts. I still can't believe he got beat by Junkanoo last time out at 50-1 at Goodwood, because he looked to have everything in safekeeping that day until the Gary Moore giant killer came and done him. But I mean, it was a good race. It was a deep race. There was lots of quality in it, and he went through the race like the horse he did at Newmarket. He snuck in here off the bottom. I mean, he's still very well handicapped for marker 94. I'll be amazed if this horse is running in pattern level next season. And there's only 2 3-year-olds in it as well, and these 3-year-olds at this time of year often have a significant advantage over their older horses. So at 9-4 top price, I think that'll probably be under pressure come race time. I think he'll be shorter. Looking at the way the track held up yesterday, front runners or horses up with the speed, that was the place to be. Obviously, it might change in the next couple of days. I don't know if there's a headwind or a tailwind, depending on what the wind direction. We've got this storm, or the remnants, or the back end of that storm from Ireland, sort of coming back again with a little bit of a vengeance. So you need to keep an eye on that, whether it help the front runners or help the horses from the back. But he looks the right favourite. The only other one I could see from an each way perspective was perhaps Dark Jedi, who was a credible fourth in the John Smith's Magnet Cup behind Sinjari, which is very solid form. A reproduction of that will surely see him there or thereabouts, and he ran quite well at Newcastle next time out. So that was my short list of 2. Whether I'll end up tipping in the race, I don't know. Tipping a 2-1 favourite the first race of the day doesn't always float my boat. I like to go for something a little bit more chunkier. But yeah, that's the way I see it anyway. First look at it.
So 9-4 Zabeel Champion and Dark Jedi 8-1. Daryl, who's taking your fancy at this stage?
I'm pretty keen on Zabeel Champion as well here. His form lines and collateral form lines throughout his last few runs are just the top level of the handicap and form that we've seen this season. The collateral form lines have all worked out really well. I mean, if you go back to that run over the Rolling Mile at Newmarket, Al Mason was in third, won next time, beat Nugget. That sort of is the top level of handicapping form across the board. Mafia Power, the fourth, bolted up, is £10 higher. The fifth, MacTell, went out and won next time. And then on the July course, back in second was Man of the Night, and he's got form that links in with Trictonic and Morisco, both near 100 rated horses. So everywhere you look for Zabeel Champion, it works out really, really well. Oh, Goodwood, I didn't think for one that's run at Newmarket, I didn't think he handled the track too well, to be honest. He did well from stall 9. He was posted 3 wide for most of the race. He was just outpaced going up the hill and then coming down the hill. stayed on really strongly. The winner had a much easier route round the inside, much clearer path. So, and that horse was clearly well handicapped. He was trying to give him plenty of weight there. Gets a £9 weight for age allowance. I mean, if you look at this race just from the winner's perspective, 3-year-olds don't have a great record in it, but there's only been 11 3-year-olds from 166 runners in this. They only represent 7% of the runners. And I think he's going to get a soft lead out in front. There's just plenty to like about him. He's certainly well handicapped off a mark of 94. He should take some beating here.
Strong one for Daryl there. Zabeel Champion, trained by Mark Johnson, who had 2 winners yesterday. So trainer coming into this festival as ever in good form, and Ryan Moore jocked up. So lots to like about Zabeel Champion, it's fair to say. The second race of the day is the Lonsdale Cup, the Weatherby's Hamilton Lonsdale Cup. Just over Group 2, just over 2 miles, and we currently have 7 runners, the dreaded 7 runners. NBH heads the market at 5-2, ahead of Nunthorpe Road. A couple of storming runs from Nunthorpe Road behind Stradivarius in recent times. Dashing Willoughby 4-1, Eagles by Day 7-1, Withheld 11-1, Stratum 20-1, and Who Dares Wins 25-1. Shame, Daryl, not to have an each way angle in here, but 4 horses, single figure prices, and it looks fairly open for a 7-runner affair. Who at the moment do you think looks the most likely?
Well, Nunthorpe Road for me. I'm shocked that he's not favourite for this. Embahar comes in here favourite. She's unproven at the trip, but I don't think the trip would be an issue. But just in terms of what she's done, she's unproven in the trip. She steps out of filly company, goes against the boys. Record is 4-4-1 when against the boys. The ground might just be against her. All her best work has come on fast ground. And Nunthorpe Road, there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. He beat the Irish Derby winner, giving him £15. He's beaten Eagles by Day. He's reversed the Queen Bars form with Dashing Willoughby on their latest meeting. He's beaten Withhold. He's beaten Who Dares Wins. And he's had 2 runs here at York, and it wasn't a bad run in the Dante last year. I thought he ran all right. I didn't think there was any issue with the track. I thought he was outpaced. And then it was a slightly less impressive run in the Voltager last year. But both times he's been brought to the stand side rail when turning into home. And I think the far rail is definitely where you want to be. I think if he's going to make all the running here, and if he can stick to that far rail, I think he's going to be really, really tough to peg back. Dashing Willoughby's interesting after being gelded during the interim, 1-2 since then. But I think Nunthorpe Road sets the form standard with that Goodwood run behind Stradivarius. And I can't believe he's not clear favourite, really.
Nunthorpe Road 11-4 best price currently. That is with Bet Victor. Standout price. I should say a couple of firms do have Nunthorpe Road marginal favourite. Unibet go 9-4 ahead of 5-2 NBR. Andy, would you agree with those sentiments? Nunthorpe Road should be favourite, even if not at the moment.
I find it very difficult to split the two. There's positives and negatives either way. The negative for NBR perhaps is the ground, but that could easily change in 24 hours. Like I say, with a drying wind, it is going to be very windy. There's not going to be too many showers around, if any at all, looking at that forecast. And if it does get back to sort of good to firming places, which it could easily do because the drainage at York is very good, it'll certainly make her chances even better than what they are now. I don't think she'll have any problem with the trip. She stays well. She's got probably, I'd say, the best action of any horse I think I've seen in the last 10 years. She absolutely glides across the ground. Her stride length is unbelievable. She's tailor-made for York. She got beat the only time she ran at York, but that was probably when she was only the half the horse she was now. She finished second. Whereas Nunthorpe Road, I must admit, Daryl's kind of like, once I brushed him under the carpet, but his 2 worst runs in his life have both been at York. He's got absolutely battered. And he shouldn't really run that badly on either occasion because there have been small fields where he's been up with the speed. And he's just, for one reason or another, just hasn't faced the long straight. And it's odd because he's about as tough as they come now. Right, I agree with Daryl on his assessments of what he's done of late. I mean, they've just been Herculean efforts. He's run beyond Stradivarius in the Ascot Gold Cup. It was phenomenal. He was the only horse on the round track for virtually the whole week that led all the way and then still kept going in the home straight. And albeit Stradivarius pushed him aside in the end, it was still a phenomenal run. So strictly on what he's done this season on form, you look at the Stradivarius runs over the trip without a shadow of a doubt. But I've got a nagging doubt that's just similar to, the filly Haggis's. Just alarm bells are ringing at the back of my mind with 2 inexplicably bad runs at the Naysmar. The 2 bits of evidence are telling you that Nunthorpe Road doesn't seem to like it there. So that probably just tips the balance of power in the filly's favour.
Can you make cases for any others except for those at the top two?
Not really. I mean, Dashing Willoughby's very good, but he'll have to be right on top of his game here to beat the other two. Again, another race I'll probably want to have a bet in. They're not really the kind of races I like playing in or tipping in. 7 runners, no each way angle, spin of the coin between one or the other. I'd almost be tipping for tipping's sake. And when you've got 40 races to choose from a column, and I usually go for 4 or 5, I'm quite happy just to push that one to one side and say, well, I fancy MBR and claim it if it wins for this podcast purposes, but from actually tipping and writing it and put it on my profit and loss column, then I'd rather leave it.
Well, Daryl's given us a strong enough bullet, I reckon, with Naif Road there at 11-4. He's made a decent case, but you can definitely have bragging rights if Enbahar is well backed and goes off favourite and justifies that as well. Worth pointing out at the moment of recording on Thursday morning, Sky Bet are currently going 3 places on this despite the 7 runners. So if you did want to find an each way angle, there could be a possibility of doing so there. Always fun when you guys disagree. It's boring when you agree with each other.
Exactly. So, can't just copy each other all the time. I'm
happy to pit you against each other, but we now come on to the Gimcrack Group 2 over 6 furlongs, and Minzal is the 5-2 favourite ahead of Mohawk King at 4-1. Yazaman 9-2. You better believe it. A sea of blue on oddschecker at the moment. Bet365 still 8-1, but as short as 5-1 with Betfair and Paddy Power. Mystery Smiles 9-1, 14-1 bar. And Andy, I mean, sometimes when we speak, you seem to align quite closely with Paddy Power and Betfair with their thinking. Can you see why there's money coming for You Better Believe It?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's a horse I like. I like Nigel Tinkler's 2 horses, funny enough, Friday, Saturday. He's got Acklam Express running the weekend. And You Better Believe It, at the moment, it's probably the better of the 2, courtesy of his winning the National Stakes. His time figure when he won at Doncaster certainly pointed me in the right direction with this fella being a very smart horse. I think I napped it that day when he won at Sandown. He had no problem settling and quickening and putting the race to bed that day, suggesting that he'll certainly be fine over 6 furlongs. They had a choice of any race they could have run in this week. They could have run in the Roses Saturday. They could have run him in another race, the sales race, and they've decided to come for the 6 furlong race, the Gimcrack, the best of all. And I think that's the wise decision. He's got a great cruising speed and a really lovely turn of foot. So I think he's a horse going places myself. But this is not easy because he's up against some genuinely good colts who are already proven over 6 furlongs, such as Minzal and Mohawk King. They clashed, didn't they, Ask at first time out? Mohawk King came out the best that day, but subsequent performances of Minzal suggested that he's improved immeasurably from that first run. His back end sectionals when he won at Doncaster were of a very high class colt. And he probably might have even gone close to winning that day at Ascot had he got a clear run. I think the gaps kind of closed on him and he had to switch and then come near side. So I think he's probably a better horse than Mohawk King, or what he's likely to be in the long run. But then, you've got the likes of Escape Route, who represents the July Stakes form behind Tactical. Yazaman, of course, was second in that race, second to Supremacy. This is a very, very deep and difficult race to get a handle on. Again, at the moment, I haven't come to any conclusive opinion on what I'm going to stick up. I probably might go with either one of You Better Believe It or Yazaman, but a lot depend on just gut feeling or just how I see the prices and how the racing perhaps develops today again to see where the draw is. One's drawn 9, one's drawn 2. So there's lots of little factors that might tip me either way at the moment.
Positive words for the top 4 in the market there, Andy. Unlike
exactly, they're all good. Look, they've all got great quality claims. I don't think there's a bad horse amongst them, and it's difficult when you've got 2-year-olds that you can't find a chink in their armoury, and they've all got potential to be even better than what we've seen, particularly Mizal, Mohawk King, and You Better Believe It.
We haven't even spoken about 3 unbeaten horses in Mystery Smiles,
exactly.
Delawala and 7 Brothers, so who could be anything you'd think as well.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a very, very difficult race to call. Again, I don't have to put a tip up in it just because it's a 2-year race, and I'm almost feel duty bound to tip it in a 2-year race. I'm leaning towards not going that way at the moment.
You have to.
As I mentioned with the race before, Sky Bet being very generous with their prices this week. Sorry, with their each way terms this week and their prices, I'm sure. And they are a fifth, the 4 here. Everybody else paying just 3 places. So it could be an each way angle there if you do side with one of the bigger price ones, or even, Yazaman 9-2, 4 places would be a fair bet as well. Daryl, I'm hoping you're not just going to tell me how good all the horses are in the field. Any catching your eye particularly at this stage?
I mean, it's Andy's rounded it up pretty well there, but I thought Minzal was really, really impressive at Salisbury. I thought his final 3.5 furlong sectionals were just unbelievable. I had him around 0.17 seconds slower than Konchek over 5 furlongs, but 0.29 seconds around that sort of mark quicker than Happy Power, and he was on the bridle. So he looks a really useful horse. He could be really going places, that Minzal. Yazaman, I didn't think we'll see the best effect at Goodwood last time, really. Just was always off the bridle, always working too hard. The pace held up at the front end. Didn't really think that was his track. I think he'll be seeing a better effect here at York. I thought he was the one to take from the race behind Supremacy at Goodwood, so I expect him to take another step forward for Haggett, who does extremely well here. But look, Andy said this won't really be, I don't think, a betting race for me. Because it is just so strong, and with these 2-year-olds, like with Cloudbridge, like you can see they can take such a step forward, or they could do something drastically different next time out. It's very difficult. But if you force me to have a bet, it would be on Minzal, just simply based on those closing sectionals at Salisbury. I thought it was really, really impressive.
Darryl, we're never going to force you to have a bet, just an opinion. That's all we're going to do.
I've got lots of them.
So with the Gimcrack, it seems like maybe a viewing brief, a fascinating affair. But we've had a couple of positive words for 1 or 2, so maybe watch the market on the day. On to another one where we might struggle to find an angle, although we do have 8 runners for the the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes over 5 furlongs. And of course, it is Battaash, who is the 2-on favourite, 1-2. Art Power is 11-4. Ali is 8-1. And then 33-1 bar. Fair to say, Andy, could be a bit of an account closer this, if you're backing Art Power and Ali each way.
Funny enough, the price for Art Power has collapsed in the last sort of 4 or 5 days, isn't it? I think anti-post wise, this race was set in stone a long way in advance. When you had Battaash 4-9, 1-2, he stayed the same price. But I think a week ago, Art Power's in and around the 5-6-1 mark. I think there's a lot of people putting Art Power in a lot of combination, multiple doubles, and trying to get a few quid rolling on him. And he's been massively popular. I don't know if he's done some piece of work at home, or there's a bit of information out there in the betting jungle that this horse has done something staggering at home, because all of a sudden you're looking down the barrel of 5-2. But this race is going to be very, very close to setting a track record here, I'd imagine, particularly if that ground dries out and if there's a tailwind. If any firm offers a track record, I'll be very interested in that, because we've got brazen speed all over the track. You look at this, Battaash, nothing could hardly go with this fella, but you've got Ornate, Art Power himself likes to rip, and that thing of Dodds's as well, Kiramoro, doesn't want to die not knowing. So I think this race is perfectly set up here for Al Ali. This horse, funny enough, is the fastest horse I've got in this field ever, 5 furlongs this season, even better than Battaash. His run his victory when he won at Sandown was absolutely off the charts. You go back and watch that run, the way he cruised through that race. This is the key to him. He's just completely not at all speed, this fella. He ties in with Liberty Beach, which is kind of the same horse that he beat that day that Battaash had been beaten for the last 2 or 3 runs. So form-wise, he's not got a massive amount to find anyway. But I was even more taken with his run last time out at in the Sapphire Stakes at the Curragh. Make a Challenge is virtually unbeatable on home patch. I think he's almost like 4 for 4 for Dennis Hogan. He's definitely the best sprinter they've got over in Ireland, albeit we lost Sceptical rather sadly. But if you go back and watch that race that day, Al Ali had to row his own boat near side. There was 2 of them. There was him and Panita Aurora, and then there was a bunch of 5-6 horses on the far side, including Make a Challenge. And Al Ali had to make up about 4 or 5 lengths on that far side group. Not only did he do that, he ended up going by Make a Challenge and completely leaving him for dead. He's all class and all speed, Al Ali. And like I say, he's got 4 front runners right in front of him. He's drawn right down the middle. He's got Battaash in 3. He's got Ornate in 2. He's got Kiramoro in 6. So he's right the meat in the sandwich there. They'll all jump and go, and he'll just sit right in behind them, and they'll give him a lovely tow down to the furlong pole. You can get your literally whatever you can each way on this horse at 8-1. this is the bet each way maggot of all time.
And then pray that when they're going in, one isn't being a bit difficult, and then suddenly it's 7, and you're putting your hair out.
If this is going to be the ultimate account closer, let's close all those accounts with a bang.
Let's get the lot on. Al Ali.
Let's get the lot on. Yeah. So Al Ali, massive each way.
8-1 with Sky Bet and Bet Victor. Yeah, this tip should come with a bit of a health warning here, because you might get an email from the lads after you've placed it. But fingers crossed, it's worth the price to pay. I mean, I didn't expect us to have such a strong selection in this race. To be honest, I thought we kind of breezed through after saying Battaash was would do the same again. Daryl, I mean, had you spotted Ali as being the one to back each way here before?
I certainly thought the race was definitely going to set up for him. That was for sure. But Andy's covered Al Ali there pretty well. Art Power. I just want to talk about Art Power. This horse might be better suited over 6 furlongs. Now that might sound mad, but when I napped him for the oddschecker nap in the handicap of a marker 97 at Ascot, I was slightly worried watching that race at the beginning of it. I thought he was slightly outpaced on occasions. And then I thought his best work was done at the finish. He's recorded his best RPRs over 6 furlongs, latest over at Naas. But you go back to watch his York run last year on soft ground as well. I thought he was slightly outpaced in the very early stages of that race. So this is going to be the quickest ground that he's probably run on. And that would just be a concern for me. I think he's got slightly rounded action. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a fantastic horse and certainly worthy of being at this level. When he gets a little tap with a reminder, he certainly shoots off. But I'm just wondering if today's going to find out his best trip, and that might just be 6 furlongs for me. Al Ali is definitely worthy of an each way bet, because this is, like Andy said, race is going to fall apart. The other interesting one for me was actually Emirati Anna. This is a drop back to 5 furlongs, and the cheek pieces go on first time. I actually think they're going to make plenty of use of her and just blitz off out the gates. Drawn in stall 1, very strong stayer. It's going to be a very strong stayer over 5 furlongs. Nice form with Oxted. Just didn't quite see it out at Newmarket over that stiff 6 in the Ordnance Stakes. I think she could be a bit of a wild card at a big price. I think 40-1 Emirati Anna. Cheek pieces first time, drop back to 5 furlongs. Makes big interest to me.
Emirati Anna at 40-1. I think someone at Sky Bet has got a camera in Andy's office, and he's calling him saying, "Stop it about Ali. We're being inundated."
I've just unplugged my phone, my landline. That landline, there's only about 2 people in the world that know that number, so I'm getting a sneaky feeling that could be a crank caller.
I think it's either Sky Bet or Bet Victor saying, "Stop it about the Ali. We can't afford it.
They've hacked my phone."
The Leveson inquiry all over again.
The thing about that Al Ali project as well is because Betfair will be so top heavy on Battaash. You're talking like it'd be very, very tight 1-2. It'll mean that the win price for Al Ali will be sort of like 11-12-1. So it'll mean that 8-1 will have to hold up. It's not like one of those ones that's going to go through the floor. So, as I said, you only get one real good opportunity to back a horse like this with your dead 8 runners on a big stage. If that was a midweek day, you'd be laughed out of town, or you just wouldn't be able to get an each way bet on that. But because it's a big day, it's the bookmakers are more likely to offer you a fair crack of the whip in a Group 1 than they are in a maiden race at Naas, on a Monday. So it's a bad each way, but it's not as bad as an archetypal bad each way, if that makes any sense.
There we have it. Just justifying before the lads at
Sky Bet
send the heavies round.
Before the 2.5 point maximum bet goes out. 2.5 point maximum each way bet goes out.
Cannot wait. Let's move on then. So if Ali goes in, I might not be watching this one. I might be buying a bottle of champagne somewhere. But let's talk about the maiden next. 3:45. Only Hills, I think, have prices up at the moment, and they have Naval Crown as the 5-4 favourite ahead of Torlead. Broomy Law 13-2, Rushmore 7-1, Dingle 10-1, 12-1 Bar. A pretty tough one to make much of, and not a race that we would be previewing, Andy, normally on one of these podcasts, unless it was on a big day like this.
Yeah, the first thing I will say, just listening to those prices, I'm staggered that Naval Crown's 5-4. Yes, he's got listed class form at Ascot last night, but he did get beat quite readily, I thought, by Chindit. And I wasn't necessarily sure that was a huge jump forward from what he did first time out. So I think he's overpriced. He's basically been priced up on his rating of 93, but I'll be blown if either Broomy Law or Towley didn't end up running past that 93 mark at some stage in their careers. Towley obviously bumped into a Tregoning beast that looked well above average first time at Goodwood. He looked as though he needed the run. He's bound to be more switched on this time. And Broomy Law, I thought, ran a lovely race first time. He was slow away on a track where it often favours to be up front, particularly with a horse with a bit of experience. And that Ross Kelly, who won that day, he got loose on the lead, and Broomy Law couldn't, quite get back to him. But he got within 3 lengths at the end. That wasn't a bad effort from where he was. And as we saw with Cairn Island in the last race at York yesterday, Kevin Ryan 2-year-olds that have had a run and then have it's almost as if they've got this meeting on their mind, are very, very dangerous second or third time up for these colours. So at 13-2, is that the price you're saying?
That is the price now, yeah, at Hills.
Again, I mean that's matter from heaven. That is with 9 runners. I mean that's another one that's going to be very difficult to kick out the frame. There's an E2A double already. Al Ali and Broomy Law.
Plug that phone back in, Andy. Get on the blower to William Hill. Daryl, what do you make of this? These are very early prices. It's fair to say that if anyone's listening to this kind of 5 or 6 o'clock this evening, the evening before, when all the bookies are out, they might look fairly different.
Christ, George, this is the complete opposite of what I do, really, to be honest with you. This is one of those races that... Oh, no, Joe, this is one of those races that I look at, flick on and flick past straight away. I like to know everything I can that there is to know about my runners, and you've got so many unraced horses here.
Yeah,
it's not one for me to get involved with, really, to be honest.
Nice one. That's a skinner for Daryl. Better to say that than start talking about stuff that you don't necessarily want to put your own money down in favour of. So we'll move on now to the 4:15, the fillies handicap. And Asiaf is the 130 favourite ahead of Waliak at 9-2. First Kingdom 5-1. Angel Power 5-1. Chimade 5-1. Virgin Snow 8-1. 11-1. Dalan Ijujo and Al Rasma 14-1. Daryl, given that you didn't have much to say about the last race, I'll start with you here.
I've got plenty to say about this one. Unfortunately, the market looks to have got this right, really. Asiaf at the top of the market. I thought there was nothing wrong with a Goodwood run last time, just sort of got picked up by one that was struggling with the early pace and just was outstayed. I don't think she didn't necessarily get the trip, but I think dropping back to this trip will be fine. The winner's gone out to win again. It's now £17 higher. Go back to her race at Sandown, when she was beaten by B Moore. She was very keen in the early stages of her race. She was caught again inside the final furlong. She might end up being one of those frustrating horses that keeps finding horses to beat her, but I think off a mark of 86, she's definitely got mileage in that mark, so she's definitely the rightful favourite. And Waliak is the other one that I came down on, the two to really focus on in this race. She's steadily improving. Okay, she doesn't look absolutely thrown in on what she's done off a mark of 90, but her pedigree is all about stamina. Her sire was a Prix du Jockey Club winner, and her dam won over 10 between 10 and 12 furlongs. So this trip, second attempt at this trip, should really suit her. She didn't have the race run to suit a Goodwood. She should certainly reverse that form with Chimade in a truly run race. She was the only one that came from the rear of the field and was able to get even close to the winner. She's got plenty of chances the last twice. At Haydock, she was beating her neck. She was in pole position there. She had no excuses, really. She's £6 higher than that for finishing second again at Goodwood, again in pole position. Not really many excuses. And the trip, slight question mark on her pedigree for me. Asiaf and Waliak, white horses at the top of the market. Preference for Asiaf because of that handicap mark of 86. I think she's much better than that.
A tentative selection for Asiaf at 130. That's with 10bet, Sport Pisa and Sport Nation. 9-2 around Waliak is with William Hill. Andy, do you agree with that with Daryl's, or are you looking further down the list?
No, I agree with Daryl this time. I think he should be just a little bit more confident with Asiaf because as far as I could see, she just didn't quite get the trip at Goodwood. She got there. Travelling looked like she was going to win. I mean, let's face it, it was a very, very deep race. I know that was a strong race because George Scott had Claire DeLune in, and we thought she'd have a big chance, and she just got blown away, to be honest. And no great surprise to see Believe in Love, who won that race, go on and beat a good horse of Godolphin's next time, Expressionist, who got form at behind horse called Katara over the same July course. So that collaterally, that form is rock solid. And as I said, Allsef was definitely the one to take out of that Goodwood race. The way she got there, she just didn't get the 1.5 miles as far as I could see. I preferred backing a horse at York, dropping back down from 1.5 miles to 1.25 miles rather than one going up. And I thought Walliak, despite the pedigree suggesting otherwise, she didn't get the trip at Goodwood. She got there a furlong down, looking as though she was going to pick up, and then she just flattened down. Didn't really stay that last furlong or so as strong as the winner, who just kept rolling on the far rail. I think Walliak's a miler. Looking at her run at Royal Ascot, that definitely suggests that when she was second to the massively improved on assist from the Charlie Fellows stable, has gone on to win since. I think form-wise and handicap-wise, they're both similar types in the sense that I think they will be listed for group fillies next season. So they're definitely the two to concentrate on. But over 1.25 miles around York, where you just need to get home and travel, I could just see Asif just getting a lovely run around the inside and Crowley just coming there and holding on to a little bit longer. And then that burst that she showed at Goodwood to go clear over the 1.25 miles will be the telling factor, rather than just huffing and heaving over 1.5 miles and getting done by a horse who just stayed a little bit better than her on the day.
So Asif there, the selection for both, as I said, Daryl giving a positive word for Walliak, but Andy firmly falling upon Asif at 130 with the firms I mentioned a second ago.
Well, you look at that, Asif, a mark of 86. Shamada beat Walliak, rated 101. I mean, you're not. I can't believe Shamade's a better horse than Asif, or a £15 better horse than Asif.
Yeah.
I agree. I do think that Walliak, though, did do a lot of work to get to the position she got in at Goodwood, and then did probably flatten out. I've been on Asif since she won at Goodwood, and she's let me down the last twice. So that's probably why it's a bit more of a tentative vote. Once bitten, twice shy, if you like. I am pretty confident she is well handicapped off that mark of 86, and this should really suit her dropping back and trip. So
lovely stuff, Asif. It is on to the final race of the day, the Sky Bet Mile, run surprisingly over a mile, and Finest Sound is the 11-2 favourite. Again, Hill's the only firm out with their prices currently, and they also go 5 places. But Finest Sound is 11-2. Visionary and Eastern World are both 7-1. Magnetized and Cold Front both 8-1. 17-2 Hartswood. 9-1 Grand Rock and Johan. Very, very open. 16 runners as it stands, Daryl. I mean, it's take your pick really here. Lots of juicy prices. Which one do you think represents the value?
Oh, I love this race. I absolutely love this race. I've got this down to 3. Eastern World finished in front of Finest Sound at Newmarket last time. It sort of had that sort of rail to help inside the final furlong. I didn't think Finest Sound really enjoyed the Newmarket track. It'll be seems much better effect here at York. But Eastern World, he's got some really strong form. And that race at Newmarket is really quite hot. That, again, another form line that links through to the likes of Zabil Champion here, there and everywhere. And just that top-level handicap form. This is a half-brother of Thunder Snow, this Eastern World. I think he's pretty useful. He's progressing quite quickly. He will stay all day. He gives his all. I think there's tons more to come from him. I think he could be a pattern performer going forward. Finest Sound and... where are we? Finest Sound and Johan was the other one. I mean, Andy put Johan up at Ascot, and I thought he actually did really well. I didn't think the prominent tactics paid off for him there. He was ridden far too close to the pace. He's best seen coming from off a pace, so drawn in stall 3 here. If he can get tucked away, he can come through off the pace. He's still very interested off a mark of 96, so I'd put a line through that Ascot run. I wouldn't worry too much about that. He was picked up by a couple of decent horses there in Saar, but his run before that at Newbury, when a comfortable winner off 88, that form is pretty strong in the context of this race. I'm surprised he's as big as he is, to be honest. Finest Sound should be seen a better effect here, but I think Eastern World is going to be the one I'm going to come down on. I think this could be a group horse going forward. I really like the way he just knuckles down and gets the job done. And at York, he's going to get into a bit of a battle here in that long home straight, and I think it's really going to suit him.
Eastern World 7-1. Positive words as well for Johan, who's 9-1 and the favourite there, Finer Sound, 11-2. Andy?
I mean, this is the hardest race on the card by an absolute mile. Having sorted out several easier tasks and how the race is going to be run, it seems ridiculous to sort of be even remotely confident about a race like this, because you can make cases out not literally for about 7 or 8, and you still might not get the winner. My shortlist for 3, for what they'd be worth, would be Hartswood, number 1. His time figure when he won here last time out over the course and distance, again, that's another good important point to make, was very good when he beat a very competitive field. I like the way he went through the race that day, and I think the step up to a mile definitely suited him as well. They ran him over 7 furlongs at the time before behind Black Caspian, and he just was working away, and started grinding away, but he just couldn't quite match the speed of the horses who were better over the intermediate distance. So I think the mile on the round track for him, he's absolutely bang on. He's got a good draw. I certainly think you could put Brunch into the equation, Michael Dodds' horse. He beat a horse that I've been following over cliff called Jumeirah Bay. Much to my horror here last time out, because I thought Jumeirah Bay got it in the bag, and this horse outstayed him in the end. The second horse, Jumeirah Bay, has gone on to finally shed his maiden tag at a short price at Chepstow the other day, so that form's okay. And again, another horse with good track form. And I'm a big sucker for Cold Front as well, the William Haggas horse. I think he's again, we're talking about Daryl's mentioning group horses in waiting down the line. This race is littered full of horses that could be running great races next year. Just as a classy horse to look at, and the way he goes through a race, that Cold Front is definitely ticks a lot of boxes. He went through his race at Haydock Well the other day. He is very much a soft ground horse though, so whether I'll end up putting him up if it ground dried out, perhaps to good or good to firm in places, I'm not so sure. I might just stick with the York form with the other 2, but he's a horse I think we're going to be hearing a lot of for a long time, Cold Front. And if he doesn't win because of his conditions tomorrow, off a mark of 91, he will do in the autumn when the rain does finally come for him.
He'll probably go off favourite. Did you think? I think some support's going to end up coming in for him. Haggis at York. I think he's got that sort of profile that people tend to latch onto. I think he might end up going off favourite in this race, that Cold Front, to be honest.
Cold Front,
conceivably, yeah. I mean, you look at the betting there. I mean, Hills are the only one who's priced up. They've got 10 horses between 11-2 and 10-1. They've just basically tantalised you with a few prices. They've obviously had an anti-post book on this race, and they've trimmed a couple and pushed a few out. But ultimately, that market will definitely be bigger elsewhere if you shop around.
Right, that brings us to an end of our Friday podcast and video. We are going to record one now for Saturday. So if you've enjoyed this, make sure you check that out on all podcast platforms and on the Oddschecker YouTube channel. Make sure you download the Oddschecker app for the very best prices available, the best bookie offers, free bets, and the very best tipsters, including Andy and Daryl. Just before I let you go, guys, Andy, I think we know the answer here, but what's your nap of the day?
Halali.
Yeah. And Daryl,
each way nap. I'm not saying he's not guaranteed to beat Battaash, but he'll be in the first 3 for sure.
And Daryl, what's yours?
I'll probably stick with Zabil Champion in the first.
Zabil Champion in the first. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the racing. Fingers crossed we're giving you a couple of winners, and please do gamble responsibly.